When I first started using sketchbooks, I only had one, and that's a perfectly good amount of sketchbooks to have. While I don't think you should have less than that, I think there are some good reasons to actually have more. And here is why I think so. First, you've had your first 5, 6, 10 sketchbooks. It might be time to start diversifying a little bit. Or whenever you're ready. It's up to you, man. This is just a sort of video. Okay, so while there is no rule of how many sketchbooks you should or shouldn't have, I think that if you have more than one, you actually get more out of all of them. So let's take a look at all of my current sketchbooks, and as we go I'll explain to you why I think they're all useful in their own ways. So let's start with the dirty sketchbook. That would be your most basic, everyday, regular sketchbook where anything goes. I call it my dirty sketchbook. Seriously, stop that. I call it my dirty sketchbook because it's one I wouldn't really want to show to anyone. It's sort of a messy, behind-the-scenes, necessary, but mostly unflattering one. I use it to take notes during a briefing meeting with a client, as well as for the notes and corrections a client has for an ongoing project. Here are my notes and ideas about projects or drawings I want to make in the future. Also my basic, boring, initial thumbnail sketches. Also the more developed but still pretty unpolished process sketches. You also find my silly storyboard sketches for some of my videos. I sometimes use it for live drawing. Pretty much the only thing you won't find in it is a nice and polished drawing. This is the sketchbook I use the most, but at the same time care about the least. Don't get me wrong, I won't be happy if it disappeared or anything. It's still full of stuff that's valuable to me, but it's a low-stakes sketchbook, where mistakes matter the least, where experiments happen, where there is no judgment. Typically for this category of sketchbook, I choose an A4 size that's not very expensive, has a good number of pages, and as for the paper, I guess I can make some compromise on the quality since I only use pen in here and the content is never going to serve any special purpose. It most likely will never make it even to my Instagram feed. Next up is the sketchbook on the go. You always need one of these. The purpose of this one is pretty self-explanatory. It's the sketchbook you bring with you every time you're out and about, so that no sudden burst of inspiration goes unexplored. This type of sketchbook often turns out just as messy as the dirty one for me, but still way more presentable. The contents are most of the time based on real-life reference, so they're way better looking than the total improvisation that often is the dirty one. The one I'm showing you right now is my main current on-the-go sketchbook, but at the same time it doubles as my at-home sketchbook. I'm working at a shared office space, so my dirty sketchbook stays at the office for all the work stuff, while my on-the-go and home sketchbook is reserved for sketching at home, in parks and cafes, and the content is more fun, free, and somewhat more polished because I actually put some effort in it. Not that I don't put any effort in my work sketches, it's just I fix them in post-production. Lately I use this sketchbook also as a journal, where I illustrate some everyday silly things that happen to me or that I think about. So for the on-the-go sketchbook, I choose one I'll be able to carry around. I go for something small and light, and since I want some level of decency from my sketches, I'd also choose a paper I enjoy and that works well with my favorite mediums. This current one also happens to be quite cheap, so yeah, bonus points for that. The watercolor sketchbook. I love watercolor, but for me, using it requires a bit of a physical setup, a certain type of lighting, certain space around me, so it's not something I do on a daily basis. It's more of a on-again, off-again relationship. We usually have a really great time in the summer and then tend to grow apart in the winter. So I have a separate sketchbook for those special moments. When I bought this sketchbook, I wanted it to be my on-the-go journal sort of sketchbook. But I didn't use it as much as I anticipated because I didn't want to waste the pricey watercolor pages on random stuff. So it's now only reserved for watercolors. Since watercolor is a picky sort of medium, it won't work well on every paper. I'm prepared to invest a little bit in a proper paper, at least 200 GSM, but if possible 300, 350. So if you have a more special relationship with a certain medium, you might want to have a sketchbook dedicated to that. Next we have it's expensive and the pages are really nice and smooth and I'm afraid to sketch in it, so I wait until I'm a master and I only draw masterpieces in it sketchbook. Or the fancy one. Or the one you're afraid of. Or okay, that's enough. So that's the type of sketchbook I really don't recommend that you have, but let's face it, you probably do. And if you don't, you probably will at some point. When I was 8 or 9, I got a notebook as a gift. It was just a notebook for school, but it had really nice and glossy picture on the cover and was generally fancier than what I was used to. So I decided I won't use it until I deserved it. My handwriting was pretty terrible and my notebooks were messy as hell, so I thought I waited until I improved. I built up such an anxiety for that notebook, I never used it, to this day. So that was dumb. I don't have it quite as bad anymore, but I get close sometimes. So this sketchbook is one of my more expensive ones. I really like the paper. It is mixed media, which makes it more versatile. It has hard covers, so I can easily use it anywhere. And spiral binding, which is my favorite. But at the time I bought it, I already had few trashier sketchbooks going on, so I thought I'd wait until they're filled. So it stayed empty for a while and the anxiety started building up. So one day I thought, what the hell, and just started using it. You notice the first page isn't even that amazing. These are some client project sketches. I think that pattern sheet it starts with helped me take it a bit easier on the first page. But anyway, then I stopped using it again and it's been a bit of a on and off thing for a year or so. I do keep it for some nicer work, but there are also some pretty terrible pages inside. It's also my official at-home sketchbook, because it is too big and heavy to carry around. Next would be the secret sketchbook, aka the experimental one. I don't really have one of these at the moment. I guess the dirty one sort of qualifies. If you choose to have one of these, that's where you'd make all your experimentation. You think of it as the sketchbook you'd never show to anyone, so it doesn't matter how bad you fail in there. It's where you learn, try new techniques, trace, draw your weird fan fiction or some guilty pleasure type art, copy other artists, whatever supposedly shady methods you need to use to get to the next level. No shame, no regrets, no restraints. Go make your questionable secret art and never show it to anyone. Or do. It's fine by me. Okay, here are also some honorable mentions. The used to be my on-the-go sketchbook, but now it's just a notebook sketchbook. Well, that's not a legitimate category really, but you see sometimes you start with certain plans for a sketchbook, but it turns out differently. Like this one, I got to be my small, handy travel sketchbook, and it was for a while, but then it turned into a place for random notes, ideas, development sketches, and whatnot. It's like a smaller version of the dirty sketchbook. I only use it for life drawing sketchbook. Pretty much what it says. It's the largest one I have. Pretty meh quality, cheaper price. For me, life drawing is just an exercise and usually things get messy, so I like having a dirty life drawing sketchbook, especially for that. I said dirty a lot in this video. And last but not least, I was really excited to try the paper when I bought it, but now I'm waiting till I finish the current one I have before I can continue with this one sketchbook. Yeah, what the title says. The paper in this one is way better than my current watercolor sketchbook, so can't wait to move to this one. So I guess all these types of sketchbooks will vary somewhat from person to person, but I think having multiple sketchbooks will be quite beneficial to you. It lets you have as high or as low expectations as you want, and a pretty sketchbook won't keep you away from your necessary practice just because you're too scared to mess up. You just use your dirty sketchbook instead. So I'd recommend you have at least two. The nice one and the messy one. Maybe also one on the go, especially if you're someone who travels a lot or has a long commute. On the other hand, maybe you shouldn't go overboard and have way too many sketchbooks at the same time. I think I should size down a little bit. So, do you think you'll diversify your sketchbooks or you already have multiple of them? What types do you use? Let me know in the comments so we can compare notes. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got some interesting ideas out of this, or that it was at least entertaining. If it was, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to hear me ramble some more about sketchbooks, subscribe, because I'll certainly be doing that. Hit the bell icon so you get a notification when a new video is up, because I'm trying different days for posting. I haven't decided on a schedule yet, so the videos will be coming a bit randomly. I really hope to see you next time, and until then, have fun.